up close what real racism was or what was really happening out there until I went to Alabama. And it changed me because not only did I see like the face of real racism, like, I mean, I toured the civil rights museums and stuff down there. And, of course, my boss, was a civil rights hero. I mean, he was the guy who prosecuted the Klan and put him in jail after 40 years, so he had a lot of insight. But, the reason I bring that up is because I found a lot of Republicans who couldn't bear the thought of Roy Moore. And this is before, like, all of the child molestation stuff came out. This was just that he was embarrassing. He was embarrassing to Alabama. He had been thrown off the court twice. And I learned a lot about what everybody's facing. And when I talk to them, and I talk to these Donald Trump voting Republicans in Alabama, they want the exact same things that the Hillary Clinton voting Democrats in Massachusetts want, which is a better life for their kids, better education, a good economy, good paying jobs. Everybody wants the same thing. Like, this isn't rocket science. Like, the kitchen table issues, we're all facing the same thing. Like, everybody who's a working class American, whether you're white, black, Hispanic, LGBTQ, female, male, whatever it is, like, everybody's facing the same things. They just want their lives to be a little bit easier, and they want to work hard for it because we're in America and we understand that, it's all about the American dream and getting things done. They just want it to be a little bit easier. And these kitchen table issues, these are all the same. Everywhere throughout the country, everybody's having the same conversation. How can I afford to pay my bills? Over the last, was it 1978? Since then, a person in the working classes' wealth has only gone up 5.7% adjusted to inflation. And like, your CEO has gone up almost 1,000% with inflation. So like, the thing is like, there's a disconnect between Republicans and Democrats on this issue because, Republicans see this and they say, well, the minorities are screwing us over. They're taking our jobs, or, we're losing our economy, because that's what they see on TV. And the Democrats are saying, no, your boss is screwing you over. They're greedy and they're taking money and, doing that. So it's about it. Like, we get the question of like, how do we make this better? And everybody wants the same things. It's all about winning that argument. Every single time, if you have the argument one-on-one with a Republican voter and you can show them exactly where their money's going, the Democrats will win. But we have to get that basic question answered, which is, we're sitting down with you. Like, what are you looking for in your life? What do you want to make your life better? Those are the kitchen table issues. That's the stuff that wins elections. It's that basic going all the way down to the ground and listening to what people are going through and struggling with. I mean, how in the heck are we economically doing so well if we aren't getting wage increases? I mean, right now, our minimum wage should be over $15 an hour if we're adjusting it to inflation from 1980. But we're not. We stopped giving wage increases. But your rent goes up, your gas goes up, your food goes up, everything goes up, but your wages are staying the same. There's only so far that we can stretch that balloon before it pops. And that's where we're at right now. Like, we're at a point where we can only go so much further before the entire middle class collapses and where we're in a real recession. Those are the real middle class issues. That's the kitchen table stuff. That's the issues that Democrats have to be talking about. And that's how we win elections. That's how Conor Lamb did it. That's how Jones did it. That's how we won in Virginia. That's how we won in New Jersey. Like, we're talking about the real issues. And we're not talking politically. We're talking like, let me tell you how the Republicans are going to screw you. Not, today the Republicans released a plan and it's going to be detrimental to the United States because of these issues. No, I mean, we're talking in plain language. So important.
So one of the things that's been on my mind a lot lately is we're sort of moving into primary season. I live in Chicago, so we've already had our primaries, and we're really the only state.
Wait a second, we're moving?
we're in primary season.
I've been in primary season. I've been in primary season for a year.
Yes, but see, you and I don't think like real Americans. So a lot of people are really for the first time going, who should I vote for, on Tuesday in the primary or the next Tuesday in the primaries that are coming up after that. And, I'm concerned a little bit about the kind of Hillary-Bernie stuff that happened in 2016. And I think we're seeing that a little bit in Illinois in the gubernatorial race so J.B. Pritzker beat Daniel Biss in the primary for the Democrats. There's still a little bit of kind of bad blood there. So I'm worried increasingly about what that's going to look like in various districts. And, it's difficult as I talk to candidates, I'm often very drawn to the candidates that I talk to, sometimes before I talk to them and sometimes after. And, then I'll get various people asking me to retweet things, sometimes in the same day retweet this about this candidate and then their opponent. And, it's very difficult in the primaries to sort of figure out when to take sides, when not to take sides, how to support candidates without what happens if they don't win and you've got to switch sides. So as someone yourself who was running in a primary and then, is now backing the guy who was your opponent, can you speak to this a little bit about sort of maybe how we can all be thinking about this?
Oh, Lord.
I know. I ask easy questions here.
So here's the thing is like, I went into that race specifically to take Paul Ryan out. Like, I was mad. I was cocky, I was arrogant, whatever you want to say, because, it takes a lot of cockiness and arrogance to challenge a Speaker of the House when you have no political experience and no base. But I was mad. And my mom was sick. She's in a coma. They're telling me that she's going to die. So I get into this thing. And I have no fear whatsoever about anybody in a primary against me. And you shouldn't. But I wasn't even considering that point as much as maybe I should have been. But I was all about taking down Paul Ryan. And if it was me, if it was Randy, or if it was Kathy, like, one of us is going to be the one that does it. And I'm going to help whoever it is if it's not me. And it was, I don't want to say it was like a moment of grandiose or whatever, but like, I really 100% wanted to see that happen. Like, that was it. Like, my end game in that race wasn't for me to beat Paul Ryan. It was to see Paul Ryan go down one way or another. And I wanted to put attention on that race. I wanted to, bring the resistance to paying attention. And I wanted to start the primary season off, very, very early. Because I knew that the only way that I would have a chance to take him out would be to raise just a ton of money. Because he's a speaker, he's got a limited amount on his own. So when it came down to everything, Randy jumps into the race. And he did it on a Sunday at 7 p.m., 2 weeks before the FEC reports came out, which to me, that did not make sense to me at all. Like, I'm already $100-some thousand ahead. My video is about to drop in a couple weeks here. I don't understand, like, the strategy. He understood the strategy. He exploded into this race. He came in like nobody ever has in politics I've ever seen before. He had the video, and by that night, he's on Lawrence O'Donnell. They're talking about him on The View. He's on GQ. He's everywhere. And for somebody who got into this race to bring thunder down to Paul Ryan and have someone else come in and just, explode. It was rough. And I for a couple of days there where I kind of weighed my options. And the way I saw it, like, there's one of three things that's going to happen here. Either I can beat Randy Bryce in the primary maybe, and then I spend all my money to do it and Paul Ryan just clocks me, or Randy Bryce does the same thing and Paul Ryan clocks him, or I'm not from here. I'm not from Wisconsin. Like, he's bled here, he's sweat here, he's fought here, he's been an activist, he's ran for elections here before. Like, this is his place, this is his time, his moment, and he has it. So I called Randy up and I said, let's have dinner. To his credit, he said, yeah, because he could have no, definitely not doing that. I sat down and I kind of told him what I was thinking about, and he goes, let's do it. I told him, I said, I'm thinking about, leaving the race. I'm going to endorse you. I think you have the best shot at this. And I'll give you everything I can possibly give you to get Paul Ryan out. That's the only thing I ask of you, is that you get Paul Ryan gone. And he did it. Yeah. But in terms of the primaries, when I was asked during the race if I were to get out, would I endorse one of the other candidates? Of course. And you have to. And the thing is, it's not about you. Like, when you're in a moment like that, it's really easy to be short-sighted and not think straight and everything else. And, your pride might get to you a little bit. There's a lot of people who donated money to me, and there's a lot of people who supported me and believed in me. And I would be doing them a disservice by dragging them through a nasty primary fight with somebody who I actually respect a lot, so I can win the primary that I'm probably going to lose in the general, which doesn't help the party at all. It doesn't help the movement at all. All it is basically, they call that a spoiler. And I don't want to do that. And I'm sure, if it was the reverse, Randy would have done the exact same thing. So, I left the race. I endorsed Randy, and, I've given him my, undying support since then, and unending and everything else. And he's still in a primary. He's got to face that. So, what I try to do in this is, I've endorsed Randy Bryce. I believe in him. I think he's the best candidate. And I try to respect the fact that there's still another candidate in the race, and stay as neutral as I possibly can, except to, give him a prop if he does something well, or, a retweet here or whatever. But the thing that's hard is there's a lot of people out there who this is like their first time ever being in an election, like this hardcore. And your friend might be working with somebody else. They might like another candidate in the race who's in a primary. And you can't ruin your friendships over a primary, because at the end of this, we all have to come together. It's always happened. That's how it's always going to be. We have to come together. And otherwise, we're just going to relive 2016 over and over and over again like Groundhog Day, and we're never going to win anything. We have to get past it. We have to come together. Randy and I showed everybody in the country how to do it. He was humble enough to take my call, good enough to sit down with me, great enough to, accept my endorsement and to, work together and do as much as we could. And that's how it should be. We're not enemies. And the Democrats, can't do this war against each other. It's unhelpful. It's not doing any good or anybody any services. You have people out there who are donating money and believe in you and are just hoping that you can make their life just a little bit better. Like, you have to do it for them. So if you're in a primary and you think the best thing to do is to stay in it because you want to help people and you're trying to get your message and what you believe in across, stay into it, fight, get your message out, but don't attack each other. Don't fight. Don't argue. Like, your fight is against the Republicans right now, not against our Democrats. If you have to take a swing at another Democrat to get ahead, you already lost, and we already all lost with you. Like, that's not what this is about. This is about, taking on corruption and taking on hatred and all the isms that are out there. And it's not about your pride. It's not about you winning an election personally. It's about the resistance. It's about the movement. It's about winning, and it's about changing the world. And if you think that you're in it for that reason, then stay in the primary, let the voters decide at the end of it. But if you're into it just because your pride won't let you drop out, because you just can't possibly fathom shaking hands with the other person or going on a stage with them, you're dead wrong, and you will lose.
Yeah. The other person who really impressed me at the end of a primary was Brianna Westbrook in the Arizona 8th District. They had the special election at the end of the primary. Haral Tiperneni had beat Brianna, and the way they came together and really said, no, we want what's best for Arizona was definitely impressive, and it made me sort of really like both of them a lot. So,
you have to dig deep in this stuff. It's not easy. In the weeks after me leaving the race, all I could think about was I hope I didn't let anybody down.
Yeah.
I hope that no one's pissed at me, or, and I felt really down about it. And it's not an easy thing to do. And I get it. And that's the thing. Part of the reason why I did do it was so that I could show everybody that we can still do that. Democrats can still come together. It's so important. And, there's been a lot of it this year, but there's a lot more of it where there's a lot of pettiness and a lot of pride. And the career politicians part of it, that's a problem. We have people who've been running forever and ever and ever, and some of them 50 years. They don't understand social media. They don't understand the engagement. They don't understand really what's going on in their constituencies anymore. And you have new candidates who are coming up who have never ran before, and that's pretty amazing. And what we have to do is we have to find the balance between getting candidates out there who actually get what's going on. And I'm telling you, if you have somebody who has been in politics for decades and decades and decades, and they're not utilizing social media, then they have no idea what's going on in the sense of the actual world. Because social media is where the pulse is. You can actually see every major issue, every news thing, everything that's happened if you're just paying attention to social media. But in terms of the primaries, what we're going through, we have to be able to come together. It's so important. I feel both nervous and excited to see how this goes. But, this is the first time for probably 95% of the people out there in the resistance or, in any of the activist groups that have ever stepped up to the plate and said, I'm going to be involved in this election. We're seeing, races that may have had, one person run or unopposed last year in 2016. We're seeing, races with 9, 10 Democrats in them. Everybody is fired up. And, we have to also understand, though, that at the end of all this, we're all Democrats. We're all friends. We work together. This is part of what makes us stronger, not what divides us and makes us weaker. The primary is a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I live in a place where the primary is the whole election, basically, in deep blue Chicago, and once you've won the primary, you're fine. So, I'm sort of used to it from that end. But yeah, it's going to be hard. There are certainly going to be candidates all over the country that I'm rooting for right now who are not going to win their primaries, and I know that. But, you know, I'm going to have to sort of immediately switch gears and say, okay, whoever the nominee is, that's the person I'm supporting.